Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. I'm Josh Ward, and this is P&W Strong. Welcome back, everybody. So today we are talking about a little bit of a different topic than we have talked about in the past. And we've kind of covered several different kinds of topics, but today is going to be talking about a little bit more of tools and training tips that you can use on an everyday basis. So this is kind of the DIY training tools and techniques for us here at P&W Strong. So one of the first tools that I want to talk about is the ability to use your brain as a tool and as an asset. Using your brain in a sense of being able to think about a situation or process through multiple situations that you may go through on an any given day basis. So from the thought of protecting yourself, protecting others, and being in situations where you may have to fight or you may have to confront conflict. So in my mind, my brain, the way it works is everything goes, or my brain goes over every possible scenario that I can possibly think up, whether it ends poorly or whether it ends positively, and then thinking about the consequences and repercussions of the actions. If it goes poorly for me, what did I leave behind? What's going to happen since I didn't stop the bad guy? Or if it goes positively, again, what did I leave behind? What if I did stop him, and in what fashion did I stop him? Did I have to reduce my moral character, my moral fiber, things like that to stop this individual? And yes, in times that may be necessary, especially if you're saving innocence, but sacrificing your life or your character in a manner that isn't becoming of your life or your character is kind of one of those question marks that you kind of have to battle with. But in the polar opposite of that, of giving your life positively for a situation where there are people within my circle that I would gladly give my life to help and protect. And hopefully it doesn't come down to that. Hopefully with training and with skills and with thinking about your situations that you can walk away from any encounter with any said bad guy. So the DIY training tool that I kind of want to talk about today, and this doesn't just apply to basically what I made. And if you guys follow us on Instagram, if you don't follow us on Instagram, why? Why don't you? You should. It's cool. We post stuff almost every day, and it's just a really great thing to kind of see some of the behind the scenes stuff that we do here at P&W Strong. So the first is the training blaster. So if you're low on funds or low on money, you can actually build one of these. This is just made out of wood, and it's not, the best thing ever made, but it was what I could do with the skills that I had. And basically all I did was my everyday carry, or my everyday gun, I just traced it onto a board, cut it out, made the trigger loop, or the trigger well, excuse me, and then just kind of sanded some parts down to make it fit in my hand a little bit better, make it feel like my everyday blaster. And now you can get the plastic version, so like the blue or the orange guns, they just cost a little bit more money, where this was just materials that I had lying around and was fairly easy to make. It only took me about 2 hours, and then a little bit extra to try and contour some of this to make it fit the way that I wanted to. So using these, it's not just, hey look, a cool toy gun. These can be very effective and very efficient training tools for you in multiple senses. Now this doesn't mean that you can use this and not have to go to the range. This is just a safe, like home safe environment where you can use these to practice drawing, especially if you're drawing from concealed, getting that muscle memory down, to practice from drawing from appendix, or whether you do on the side or whether you do on the small of your back. Whichever way you do it, you can practice with this in a safe way. And obviously this is just to build muscle mechanics and muscle memory. And also you can see is I'm not putting my finger anywhere within the trigger well. I'm not even indexing on the side. I'm holding it up on the side of the slide just like I would with a normal pistol. So just going through those things, and just because this isn't a live firearm doesn't mean you can't treat it as such, where, you know, only pointed in safe directions. And the instance that you would most likely use this is because maybe you live in an apartment and there's really no safe direction to point it. You can't point it at the floor. If you're on the upper level, you can't point it to any other wall because there's neighbors next door. Or if you're on the bottom level, you can't point it up. There's usually only like 2 walls that you can kind of safely aim at, but with this, you don't have to worry about that because there's no way that a round or anything can go astray. So you can practice your drawing, like I said, but then you can also practice your pointing, where, you know, no outlet, no doorknob, no cupboard is safe from your gaze, from your aim. And then you can just start refining that muscle memory. Even though this doesn't have sights, you can get used to the motion, and especially if you shape this as your everyday carry, it's going to feel pretty similar. This one's a little bit fatter than my normal everyday carry and a little bit more robust on the top, but significantly lighter because it's just wood. But you can still get the feel and the angle because this top of the slide is the same as my everyday carry. So you can practice with this in a much safer way, and like I said, this doesn't take away from actual range time. And some of the training techniques that I'm talking about, you can also use this in if you want to practice your self-defense, where maybe you're doing disarming or things like that, where you're coming up on a situation where maybe someone pulls a gun on you, and instead of you pulling your gun or trying to escalate, or if you don't have time, practicing with a gun that's not going to severely damage someone. I mean, obviously you could beat somebody with this and it's still going to hurt, but there's not going to be any live ammunition or oopsie daisies with this. And like I said, for me, because I just have some wood and I have some tools and some wood lying around, this was essentially free to me. So paid for by other projects that I've done in the past. So with these, use them wisely. And I mean, this is what you would want to go to in a situation where maybe you just got a new everyday carry and you're not quite comfortable with the drawing or the aiming, where you can make one of these and then get used to, especially if you're carrying maybe in a new area. Maybe you didn't get a new gun, but you're carrying in a new area, where maybe you were open carry for a long time and now you're trying to appendix carry, which I lean more towards appendix carry anyway, just because it's faster and it's right there. It's a lot harder to draw from other positions, especially on your back, where if you get bull rushed and knocked flat on your back, it's really hard to draw that when you're laying on it. And it also puts a lot of stress on your spine, so it puts your spine out of alignment when you hit the ground and can cause some serious nerve damage. And then also on the hip, where if you get knocked on your back, you're not staying on your back for very long if you can help it. So getting to one hip, but that only limits you to either hip down and block your gun, or you hip up and that puts the gun in further reach of the person that maybe knocked you down. So with this, you can practice carrying whichever way you want to carry, and I'm not saying that appendix carry is the only way to carry. You can carry whatever way is comfortable for you. There are just pros and cons to each way to carry. And there's pros and cons to carrying appendix as well, like I've said in past videos. You've got a barrel rubbing up against your other barrel, or you misfire, it's gonna be bad. It's not gonna be comfortable for you men. Now ladies, it's a little bit different, where you can also get something that's a little bit more comfortable, because, you know, maybe not all ladies wear jeans, they're wearing yoga pants or things like that. So you can actually get like a belly band that has holsters built into it, so then that just rides right above your pants, underneath your shirt, and everything can just stay tucked away. So figuring out the way that you carry, and then practicing how to draw, practicing pointing, and the kind of concept of aiming small and missing small is a really fun game to play when you're at home, especially if you have one of these, because you can safely point it. So you're just like, you know, I said no outlet is safe, but maybe no left prong of that outlet is safe. And so now you're aiming so small that if you miss, you're still hitting the outlet. You just maybe miss by just a little bit off of the left prong hole. And so using some of these techniques and using this to refine and hone those techniques is going to be a very good thing for you. And it's almost, you know, 99% safe. You might get a sliver, you might drop it on your toe and you know, hurt yourself. You know, if you're trying to do self-defense stuff. You still can, like I said, you can club somebody with this and it's still going to hurt, but you just need to be mindful, be just cognitive, be there in the instance. And that's part of the mindset stuff of what I'm talking about as well, of being able to positively think under pressure, under fear, and still be able to protect yourself and protect others. And just like I said in our first video of the 10 tactical tips for everyday life, you can't help anybody if you are dead. So if you act rashly or you're like, oh, I know I can get to that guy. Yes, but at what cost? Did it cost you your life to get to that guy? And did you finish that guy before you died? And so that's the biggest thing that you need to think about, is being able to rationally think, flip that switch of now I'm in combat mode, but then also being able to flip it back off and come back out of it. Where there's a mindset, especially for men, that, especially for manly men, that, you know, we are protectors, we are those white knights, those soldiers, those protectors of the good and the innocent, that maybe we don't think about what comes after, or maybe we don't think about the consequences of our actions, or the consequences of, you know, inaction at that same point. So if you choose to do nothing, what happens? Inaction is still an action. So there's a lot that you have to think through, especially as us white knights, where we're trying to operate within lawful means. And also we're more worried about protecting others than ourselves. But again, we can't protect anyone if we are dead. And so not presenting yourself as a target, and thinking tactically, thinking calm, cool, and collected throughout the encounter. And obviously not escalating force. So if a guy pulls a knife, that doesn't mean you get to shoot him in the head. Like, there's other ways to manage that sort of situation. Now, honestly, if a guy pulls a knife on you and he's charging at you, or if he's within that threat range of the 7 yards, then obviously you have much more right to defend yourself. But if a guy just pulls a knife and starts waving it around when he walks into a restaurant or something like that, obviously you have the means to be able to neutralize threat without using lethal force. And so just thinking about all this stuff and talking a little bit more about mindset with these training techniques as well is, obviously, like I've said, don't forsake your range time. Range time, getting actual valuable time in with your firearm that you're carrying every day, or with the firearms that you use for home defense, is above all else the best training tool. Obviously, right now with COVID going on, most ranges may or may not be open. So trying to find some place in the woods to go off and go and shoot and not get in trouble is kind of a thing right now. But if you make these, this makes it easier to at least practice your pointing, staying sharp mentally while we are kind of in this lull. And so talking about mindset of men, and we are all fighters, we're all warriors, we are the white knights of the world, and there are times where we are not able to turn it off, like I said. Like, we engage, or we're just always on. But if you have a wife, if you have kids, if you care about the people that are around you, sometimes that doesn't show, especially if you're always on. And more often than not, you being manly and burly and trying not to show weakness or show softness, or being able to, you know, love and kiss on your kids, and being able to treat your wife with respect and dignity and love on her as a man, that's the actual weakness. If you cannot do that, if you physically can't wrap your brain around that and say, no, that I'm too much of a man for that, that's weakness, not strength. So just kind of words of encouragement, guys, and guys and ladies, this isn't just for the men. All of these training tips you can use as well, and you should thank me for trying to walk your men back a little bit of always being on, always being, you know, trying to be super soldier. We're not Captain America, guys, but we can still go out and white knight, but we have to be able to turn it on and turn it off. Turn it on for when it's needed, turn it off for when it's not. And be able to love your wife, love your kids. So ladies, you're welcome. Men, listen, learn, and just as always, guys, respect, encourage, teach, and protect. Josh Ward signing off. Have a good day.